Oops. Sorry about this, real quick. There we go. All right, here we go. Chapter 23. Lily. Rage. Violent, uncontrollable anger. That was the clinical definition of how I felt. The way I'd phrase it was that I was ready to rip off heads with my bare hands, using them as bowling balls. That would have got me banned off of TikTok for 3 days. Those two sentences. Using them as bowling balls. Fuming, I stirred the pasta salad as I tossed in the shredded cheese. You're getting more on the counter than you are in the bowl. Hearing Saint's gravelly voice behind me created a thrill that shifted all the way between my legs. I should feel nothing but anger with him, but all that had changed the moment I'd read the bullshit in the Sun Gazer. While everyone in 4 different states where the ragtag magazine was popular knew they were trash, that didn't mean they didn't have a huge subscription base. That was evidenced by the hundreds of Instagram tags he'd received, the constant phone calls neither one of us had answered, and texts from just about everyone on the team. Give me a second here. Hundreds of Instagram tags he'd received, the constant by the hundreds of Instagram tags he'd received. Okay. The hundreds of Instagram tags received, the constant phone calls neither one of us had answered, and texts from just about everyone on the team. I felt sorry for him, for us, for the team, but mostly I was angry. ANGRY. That anyone could be that stupid to create such disgusting photographs. Really? It would seem anyone with experience with Photoshop or some asinine AI product was creating what they called art these days. Fake art that ruined careers and terrorized people. I slapped another handful in before I realized the pasta was too dry. Who the fuck do they think they are printing that bullshit? You bet I was cursing like a sailor. After throwing the refrigerator door open with force, I snatched the mayo jar from the shelf. Thankfully, I said that kind of weird. You're printing that bullshit. You bet I was cursing like a sailor. Bullshit. Bullshit. You bet I was cursing like a sailor. After throwing the refrigerator door open with force, I snatched the mayo jar from the shelf. Thankfully, I'd been able to piece together a simple but decent meal. As I opened the jar, I yanked the spoon I'd placed on a paper towel, flinging the gooey stuff to the left. Saint's sigh was heavy. I slowly turned my head. Oops. Uh-huh. He licked a glob off his lips while peering at me with the hold on. Uh-huh. He licked a glob off his lips while peering at me with only one eye open. You're a mess. His grin was infectious. So cute, my pussy throbbed. I'd been dead set on hating the man, but he had that boyish way of making everything better. I'm not a mess. You are. Hey, is there a hawk outside my window? What is this sound? I'm not a mess. You are. Hey, okay, here we go. I'm not a mess. You are. To prove a point, I stuck my fingers into the jar, the mayo sticking to them easily. When I flung the entire amount in his face, I couldn't help but squeal. He was shocked by what I'd done. I was too. That I suddenly felt playful around him confused the hell out of me. Saint didn't react at first, but his chest was rising and falling, those sinfully gorgeous eyes of his turning dark, with just that sexy hint of silver around his irises. Oh, hey YouTube, saying no. Hint of silver around his irises. It's a shift of romance. You don't like it, skedaddle. Sexy hint of silver around his irises. See? I asked. You're the big mess, not me. His face continued to be contorted, and I backed away, still laughing. He could be so adorable when he wasn't infuriating. I'd seen the way he'd looked at me when we'd been at the rink. He'd had confusion in his eyes, and oops, let's do this again. Me when we'd been at the rink. He'd had confusion in his eyes, as if he honestly didn't have a clue why I'd been angry with him. I'd been determined to let it go when he'd shocked me really— okay, hold on, I gotta say the words. I'd been determined to let it go when he'd shocked me by really trying to apologize. His dimples were evident, even now, and that only added to the confusion I felt around him. We weren't supposed to mean anything to the other, but I felt strangely close. His sudden movement caught me off guard. Within seconds, he had the mayonnaise jar in his hand. "What are you doing?" I squealed, as he shoved the spoon back into the jar. "Showing you how much of a mess you are." He pulled out a huge scoop, and I gasped. "Oh, no, you don't!" "Oh, yes, I do." He spun me around and immediately spread the chili goo all the way down my face, rubbing the back of the spoon across my lips several times. Yep, oopsies. Yep, I was right. A total mess. He placed the jar on the counter, rubbing his hands together as if happy as a clam. I couldn't allow the man to one-up me, so what did I do? I grabbed a handful of the half-finished pasta salad, tossing it in his face. Then another handful was tossed on his neck, so Rotini could slide down his t-shirt. "Now you're going to get it." Saint was grinning like he'd turned into an evil man as he grabbed me by one arm, smashing mayo all over my face. We wrestled, mayo slipping from our bodies onto the floor. In my bare feet, I slid all over the place and could have fallen had his hold not been so firm. We were grunting and groaning, but I couldn't help but keep a smile on his face. Okay, I gotta say that right. Had his hold not been so firm. We were grunting and groaning, but I couldn't help but keep a smile on his face as I rubbed a gingerful. His hold not been so firm. We were grunting and groaning, but I couldn't help but keep a smile on his face as I rubbed a fingerful across the bridge of his nose. With another handful of pasta, I eased my hand under his shirt, rubbing the salad into his skin. "You are such a brat. You can't win," he growled. "Not against me. Want to bet?" His laugh was boisterous. "Want to bet? Want to bet?" His laugh was boisterous, and in an unexpected move, he lowered his head, licking the goo from my lips. When he captured them completely, I was in total shock, my body instantly reacting. I arched my back, pursing my lips, just as he pushed his tongue inside. The combined flavors were incredible, jolts of current pulsing through every vein. His lips were soft, his tongue dominating, and my heart was thudding rapidly. All right. All right, we got to mute for a little bit. Yeah, we're narrating an audiobook. It is a paranormal shifter romance. And we're in one of the steamy scenes right now, so we're muting. We'll be back though. That's the correct one. Well, that was a long mute because that was a long chapter. Okay, audio check 1, 2. There she be. Okay, here we go.
Was off. What is it? What is it? What is it?
Likely nothing. Maybe I should get us a towel.
What is it?
Likely nothing. Maybe I should get us a towel. Maybe I should get into the shower. She struggled from beneath me as I shifted against the cabinet. Still catching my breath. I could play hockey for hours without needing to catch my breath. Yet one round of rough sex with Lily and I was winded? Wow. What the woman did to me was far too sinful. With tingles continued while...
Are too sinful.
Oh my God, say the words.
Too sinful.
With tingles continuing to rip through my body, I wiped sweat from my face as she stood, holding onto the edge of the counter as she did so. Her shriek boomed in the kitchen. I jerked to my feet. What the hell?
What the hell?
Bah! She'd thrown her arm out, and even though she couldn't articulate what she was trying to say, I followed her line of sight. Just as it became obvious, some asshole had snuck onto my property and was currently taking a picture or filming us. My reaction was immediate. I spun her around in the opposite direction, covering her up with my body. At least from where the jerk stood, he couldn't see anything but from the waist up. That didn't mean he hadn't seen enough. I slunk with her to the floor, cupping her face, as the rage returned to those pretty little eyes of her. Wait right here. I'll get rid of him.
Here, I'll get rid of him.
I don't think that's such a smart idea. Don't you have blinds, drapes, something? She pushed herself off me, crawling on her hands and knees until she was able to grab one of 2 towels from the oven handle. Oops, I do in my bedroom window. Not your bathroom? It's on the 2nd floor. No one will be able to see into the house. She gave me a look that could fry me on the sidewalk. You are kidding, right? Ever hear of ladders, people climbing trees, a telephoto lens? I scratched my head, finally noticing my own stench. Oh, yeah, I'm going to handle this. Before she could stop me, I bolted up from the crouched position, flying toward the back door. Before she could stop me, I bolted up from the crouched position, flying toward the back door. I was so quick with my actions that I hadn't thrown open the door before the photographer reacted. Oops, I said the wrong line.
Flying toward the back door.
I was so quick with my actions that I'd thrown open the door before the photographer reacted. Without thinking about the fact I was naked, or that my reaction would likely be on the morning news, I wrapped my hand around the man's throat, lifting him off the deck by well over a foot. What the fuck do you think you're doing? I gritted out in a tone that provided him with the clear indication I was more beast than man. He flailed, his eyes wide with shock, not only from my extreme strength, but also because my eyes were reflecting my wolf. That had occurred way too often lately. Yeah, speechless now that I caught you, huh? I snorted. Put him down, my lily flower called from behind me. I don't think I want to. He hasn't learned his lesson yet. Saint, put him down. Her voice might be considered one devoid of inflection, but I knew her well enough now. But I knew her well enough by now to know she was warning. My God. But I knew her well enough by now to know the warning voice when I heard it. I'd crossed a line that would be splashed all over every social media source. I'd crossed a line that would be splashed all over every media source. I dropped him onto his feet. His foot was caught beneath him, and he fell on his butt. I stood over him with my hands on my hips. If you post a single picture, I will crucify you. Don't think I can't hunt you down. Now get out of here. I slammed the door with enough force, the glass panes rattled. After taking long strides, I flicked off the kitchen light, pitching us into darkness. Yet, I could clearly see her face, and her surprise. We stood in silence for a full minute before another round of noise grabbed my attention, which caused me to take her. And her surprise. We stood in silence for a full minute. We stood in silence for a full minute before another round of noise grabbed my attention, which caused me to take her by the arm, leading her into the hallway. What are you hearing? She asked. What are you hearing? She asked. Holy fuck. Leading her into the hallway. What are you hearing? She asked. A crowd at my front door. I left her side, heading for the entrance, and she jerked my arm with enough force I was pulled back by several inches. What do you think you're doing? Snorting, I looked at her. Tossing them off my property. What do you think? Need I remind you that while I enjoy the Tarzan moves while you're completely naked, I don't think confronting them with a fully aroused cock will win you any points. Well, maybe with the ladies? Huh? It took me a few seconds to realize my dick was standing at full attention. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. She craned her neck, shaking her head. Obviously, she heard nothing. I usually am when it comes to you. Why do I have a feeling you and I need to have a nice, long chat? Maybe so, but I think we need to get the hell out of here. Reporters? Reporters. Her groan was tight. I'll go throw on some clothes. I'd prefer if you didn't. I grinned as she started to head toward her 2 suitcases that remained on the other side of the door. Stopping her, I whispered in her ear, Careful, Lily Flower, or you'll flash the mob. She wrinkled her nose when she realized I was talking about the clear glass on either side of the door, and for all the wrong reasons, I burst into laughter. All right, we're going to call it